Okay, welcome to our session, Intermodulation, Improvisation and Collaborative Art Practice. My name is Leo. I'm the person who presenting this paper, and this paper is written with my PhD advisors, Stephen Jackson and Phoebe Singer. By the way, I really love the title of this session. I think our research team is ready to provoke Kai 2018, so take my presentation seriously. Over the past several years, our research team have engaged in one simple but very bold question, which is, can collaborative art practice be a method for HCI inquiry and research? For example, can we understand the value of technology repair through collaborative art practice? Or can we understand the post-phenomenology or feminism through more experimental collaboration? And of course, it's not only the theme that we are curious about, especially with the growing emerging interest with the DIY and media art. Growing number of HCI people try to conduct a research through more artistic practice and experimental collaboration. And these methods are usually highlighting the creativity and knowledge embedded in open-endedness, situated engagement, and experimental collaboration, which we call improvisation in this session. But what is improvisation? How much do we understand the nature and the practice of improvisation, especially in the context of HCI? So let's say your student one day come to you and say, I would like to do a research through improvisational way. What kind of thing you need to expect from him? And if you're an artist and you want to do a research through art practice, then what should you expect on yourself? And that's the question we would like to explore in this session. So our approach is mainly three big chunks. One is more like theoretical analysis on improvisation from more crossover and integrated theory. And we provided two ethnographic studies. One is just classic interview and studio visit things where we learn why and how they use improvisational practice for their creativity. And another part of ethnography is about our project where our research team are engaged in collaborative art practice to produce improvisational artwork. So let's get started. What is improvisation and how existing theory understand the idea of improvisation? Derived from Latin word unforeseen, improvisation involves basically composing and inventing something on fly in existing structure and situation. Let's take a look of the example in the video, the Mystery of Picasso, which is a 5-hour time-lapse video. And once you take a look, it's open in YouTube, so you can just Google it. And you can find that his idea is not developing like an engineering mode, not following a linear progression or a blueprint. Instead, his idea continuously changing while he's experimenting with the social and material practice. He was smoking in the distance and see his painting, and he's talking to his musician friend, he's talking to his colleague, and he's experimental with a lot of material on site and to understand what he's actually making things. And after 15 minutes, he just say, now I begin to see what I'm going on, and I'm gonna start with the new canvas. And these kind of improvisational practice have been understood mainly in two ways. One, we are categorized as a situated creativity that involves more agile creativity for unexpected breakdown. For example, let's say if you are a piano player in the group and you found that your concert room has a broken key, you cannot just drop it. You have to invent some situational creativity. Or if you forget to bring a chopstick in your picnic, And your friend probably say, just do improvise like a MacGyver to find some way. So in that case, we need to develop our emerging creativity in the situation. Another thing we named as a blue note, which usually discussed in the jazz and other types of improvisation. It is not passive creativity. It's more like artists throw themselves to the certain situation to promote their unexpected creativity. They intentionally break down the situation or try to include the indeterminacy in their practice. But it's not just like a smoking and break down the piano. Their idea or their discourse should be remain in logical and cogent and expressive ways. And this indeterminate and situational-driven and evolutionary human behavior and cognition have not only discussed in jazz or experimental art, it has been discussed in a really variety of disciplines, including anthropology, economics, robotics, and including human-computer interaction. In HCI community, improvisation has also discussed in both theoretical and methodological way. Looks quite difficult, but what I would like to say is, no matter what, no matter you want to engage or not, human-computer interaction involve improvisational nature. And there is certain advantage if you follow more open-ended and situational engaged way of learning. But some scholars also mentioned that there are much of disagreement and unclearness on how to evaluate such things. I think Mark already mentioned. Some people say let's just divorce it. But in order to not divorce, I think we need to know how improvisation works and what kind of specific condition and situation actually promote people to have more improvisational knowledge and creativity. So that's our study purpose. So for this, our research team have been done fairly long ethnography study on 15 multimedia artists and experimental musicians who use improvisation and experimental collaboration as their own theme or their main methodology. And the study location were quite varied from New York to Bay Area to some European musician and multimedia artists. And in the second part of the ethnography, our research team actually have engaged and collaborate with the 3 different Ithaca underground musicians, and we produced 2 different audiovisual performance in public, which called Intermodulation. And from this collaboration, we were able to produce 3 different media artwork, which responding to the musician's music. And these things are not really built from the plan, blueprint, like engineering mode, but more like generatively and organically come out while I'm interacting with the musician in the situation. So we will watch the 2 videos. One is just showing how we rehearsal and the final results came up. This is the installation Echo. This is the very first rehearsal, and the musicians are the electric golem. And what you will see that once they settle to their own music, they start improvise their music based on the artwork's response. And this is the new piece, Intermodulator with the power of music.
Lost in war machine, tethered dreams divide, tethered dreams divide in time, no more to
So from this theory and ethnography study, we were able to provide 5 key features of improvisation. In other words, when you say, oh, if you are doing improvisation practice, you can expect these 5 key features. The first one is reflexivity. Our research team really would like to highlight is improvisation is not random or just do whatever you want. Creativity that I have seen and I personally experienced is not random, or they're not just waiting until the creativity is dropped on the sky and just realize they know what can do and just do everything as they planned. But more like non-linear practitioner, they keep trying and undergo, and this spiral non-linear learning process, like one American jazz pianist mentioned in our study, is just thinking in phrase. And also, it's not only a passive learning. Sometimes it involves transgressive action in which practitioners are actively inviting and creating unforeseen and uncertain factor in order to get out of the easily expected result or not fun outcome. Like Blue Note and other musicians explain, they intentionally bring the indeterminacy and uncertainty, or sometimes just aggressive action in order to promote their creativity. And a practitioner's balancing between structure and freedom is the one key engine that naturally called the emerging creativity and knowledge and aesthetic expression in the situation. So like Gab or Csikszentmihalyi's Flow explained, this is the moment, this precarious moment where the learner is dealing with his own freedom. The structure is the way they produce the situational art practice. This picture is a Bill Evans. So we love Bill Evans. Our research team loves Bill Evans. And as you can see, his eyes, it's just, you can feel it's not random, He's a critical thinker, and he enjoyed the tension between the freedom and structure. And our study also points out the importance of listening as a way to promote creativity as a knowledge in the relationship with others. But what we would like to highlight is not only social listening. You can also listen to the material. You can also listen to the technology. As one participant mentioned, that our Breaking Andy Wall artwork actually provoked them to produce a certain sound. In other way, they are not the people who control the technology, but more like a communicating people who interact with the technology. Lastly, our study emphasized the interdependence nature of improvisation, in which participant cognition and behavior are co-constructed in the relationship with other social material actors. What we would like to say is human interaction and their cognition, especially lies in the improvisational practice, is happen to be mutually constructed. And we mentioned that it is this process is called intermodulation, where cognition, emotion, and art practice are actually sending back and modulate to each other. So we report 5 key features of improvisation. And what these findings allow us to think differently about research and design practice in HCI. First of all, for HCI, improvisational art practice and experimental collaboration can be a really valid research method that promoting emerging creativity and situated knowledge. As the idea of research through design or critical making things explain, we can study something. There are many nonlinear learners in HCI field who would like to study many topics through more improvisational thing. And improvisational practice can be a good way to promote group emergence. What our research highlight in this discourse is collaboration is not always pleasing thing. As Blue Note and other transgressive action mentioned, it could be a very uncomfortable or unmixable character in the situation, but that is the actually moment to produce tension and produce a more opportunity for emerging creativity. So what is improvisation? It's not neither a predetermined plan or making just things random, but more like in the dialogic process of the social and material actor in the situation. So going back to the first, can art practice be a method for HCI? We don't like to say yes or no, but what we are intend to do is to keep making some example where collaborative art practice are employed as a research method. Thank you very much. And today I brought an intermodulator to the dorm, SAT, so you can enjoy the more immersive wind blowing. Thank you very much. Happy to take any harsh question.
So we have time for one question. I'll just jump in. So thank you very much for your very stimulating talk and paper. One of the questions I had though was you've outlined this very interesting and framework that we can follow, a set of points, kind of guidelines. But I was wondering, so creativity or kind of arts practice for whom within HCI? So are you targeting people more kind of practice-based research, or can it scale more broadly? So within the HCI, where do you situate the work?
Thank you very much for the question. As I mentioned, there are many nonlinear practitioner and learner here. Like ADHD or ADD, it's not only a children's problem. There are people who are suffering from the classical way of research, and they would like to engage more in a situation and build their creativity. So I think it's a good way to do in that kind of research.